the market is so wild right now that you don't negotiate. You do the opposite. You give away your left leg in the hopes that they could use it. I'm Jake.
And I'm Victoria.
And this is how we bought our house in North Jersey for $441,000. Our house is 1,400 square feet, 3 bedroom, 1 bath. We watched a video on YouTube when we first decided it was time to start looking for a house. And it was a guy, the most New Jersey guy ever. And he was like, here's how you buy a house in Jersey. And he was just walking us through the process. And that was really where we were learning the most, was through people in this area that explained to us how like the laws work. And for example, the property taxes are nuts out here.
We also did not realize that there's a cap on loans, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course.
There's a cap, a loan cap, and we're like, oh, so whatever you can't afford from that loan, you have to pay in cash. We were like, oh great, we cannot afford a house over $400,000. Well, Upfront, we originally thought like, okay, we could probably do this for like 15 or 20,000.
Our like biggest wish list was dishwasher, laundry, central air,
and a guest room.
a guest room,
And a yard.
and a yard.
I just wanted my own space where I could grow food. And that was my number one thing. Is like, it didn't even matter what, it could be a driveway, but I needed a space to like have plants.
We started looking on Zillow, and all the houses, for the most part, end up being posted there. There's the contact form where it says, contact the home buyer, the realtor, or whatever. So we would fill it out and say, we're really interested in your home. We're first-time home buyers, and we're really, really excited. It looks beautiful. We love the living room.
You do that and no one responds. Or like even calling the phone numbers that are listed when you see a sign out in the yard. We did that a little bit too. The best thing we did was we hired an agent in the area, and that's that you have to. They do this every day in this area. They know every house in this area, and they know all the rules and how the market is working. Victoria had a friend that had bought a house in New Jersey. She referred us to an agent. She explained very flat out. She took charge, and she's like, all right, we're gonna start looking at houses, and went from there. We had looked at a house, and it was one of those things you see on viral videos now where there's 30 cars parked in front of a house. So our agent, we're trying to come up with our strategy on how can we win this offer, because it's a game. And she's like, you have like $10,000 of cash that you can just throw into this offer. And we were like, what? Like every penny we have has to go towards the down payment and all that. And she's like, well, you need to call your rich uncle. You need to ask, she literally said
really
that.
did,
She's
yeah.
like, call your rich uncle. We don't have rich uncles.
Yeah.
She said, ask your parents for $10,000. Our parents were gonna give us $10,000. We were doing this all on our own.
I mean, we figured it out in the end, but that shows you how crazy it is, because we were hearing stories that people in the area were offering $500,000 cash over asking on like the bigger houses, of course, and stuff like that. And we just felt so out of our league. In terms of houses that we actually toured and were seriously considering, I think it was maybe 10 to 12, and we put in 4 offers.
We decided to buy a house at probably the worst time to buy a house. Because everyone wanted space, everyone wanted to get out of the city at that time. Every house was getting 30 or 40 offers, so it was just brutal. It was like the Hunger Games. It
really felt like
really
it.
was. So originally, we thought we could not go above $400,000. We don't, there's no way. And then somehow we found a way. Every week we're like, oh. So it was constantly figuring out like, what does the next 10 years look like? And like, okay, I think I'm getting a raise around this time. Or, Victoria's like, if my career continues in this trajectory, we should be okay. But it started around 400,000, and then it worked its way up to about 450, yeah. Our budget went from 15 to 20 to double that. The trick to us getting this house is that
It was a lot of luck.
It was a lot of luck. So when we were kind of at our low point, our agent reached out to us and was like, okay, here's a house that's not even on the market, that they're only letting a couple of agents know about. We only got 15 minutes to come view this place. And we saw the 2 other couples that came, and that was it. There were only 3 people that looked. So these are the best odds we've had the entire time. We saw the house and we're like, okay, this is freaking awesome. I mean, the landscape was overgrown, the house was kind of a mess on the inside, and it hadn't been remodeled in a while.
You had to squint a little.
You had to squint a little, just squint through it, see the bones, and we saw the bones. So we did one last offer, and we got it. when you put an offer in on a house and you win the offer, you have a legal obligation to see through the offer. There's only a couple of little loopholes to get you out.
Yeah, so we hired the lawyer. Their role essentially was to go back and forth with the homeowners on the contract and the things we would and wouldn't give and take. We essentially, as part of our offer, agreed to take the house as is. The only things that we said were a deal breaker for us were radon, wood destroying insects like termites, and asbestos.
So yeah, we did get a credit for some tiny little termite damage on a windowsill in the basement.
It was listed for $375. We started at $420, and our final offer, after we had to sweeten the deal by a small chunk of $21,000, our final offer was $441. When we moved in, we definitely wanted it to be colorful. Color and making the space feel really cozy. We're definitely not minimalist, whites and gray type house. This is our living room. It's right when you walk in our front door, so it's kind of the first space people see when they come into our house. We came with a lot of the stuff that you see in this room, but the main thing we did in this room as soon as we moved in was get the floors refinished because they were old and super dark and kind of dingy.
As silly as it sounds, like this is one of the best parts of the whole house is having a dishwasher. We went years and years and years of living in the city and doing dishes every day. And if you like to cook as much as me, there'd be certain days where we were, doing dishes for 3 hours.
So now we're moving into our primary bedroom. We received actually some really smart advice from my mom when we first moved in that we should make this room super comfortable because it is where you end all of your days. So it wasn't our first priority, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I actually found this wallpaper. I love green. Jake loves the kind of orangey clay color, so it was perfect for us. So we decided on the wallpaper first, and then I love green, so we went with a dark green for the walls, which, it gives it like a low-key, comfortable, cozy vibe in my opinion. It's a little darker. It was kind of a bright gray before.
Where in this house I don't have to spend money, I'm gonna try not to spend money. And a good example of that was working on the landscaping in the backyard. I knew that was something that I could do on my own without messing anything up. So when we first moved in, I bought a lawnmower, I bought a hedge trimmer, I bought a string trimmer, and I bought a blower. And that was all together, I probably spent $800 up front just to get all the things for the yard. And then I just spent months just going through and cutting down all these vines, compressing them, drying them out, burning them in little bonfires, or even composting them. Then also, I've invested a lot of money over the last year in building the infrastructure for my garden. And I have $1,000 in garden beds right here. Each one of those is $200. And then this fencing was $100. But again, I'm doing it all by myself, so I still feel like I'm saving a lot of money. And also, this is the kind of thing that hopefully in a couple of years will return on my investment for it.
So this is our dining room, and this was really important to us to have a big space where we could gather with friends and family. And right now we only have 4 chairs, but we'll get more, so we're super happy with this space. And then these built-ins were actually one of the first features we noticed when we came in and looked at the house. We love these. They just kind of have random tchotchkes and vases and stuff in them right now, but this is another one of my personal favorite features in the house.
One of the big things that we needed after living in a 400 square foot apartment for years and living through a pandemic and working from home is we each needed our own office space.
Understatement.
This room is my office. One of the first things we did when we first moved in was paint this wall. And I think this was actually the first wall we painted in this house. So it was kind of like our first time painting as a couple, which can be a really trying thing. This was essentially going to be my Zoom background. So I wanted a nice mat that wasn't reflective.
Okay, so now we're in my office / the guest room / yoga room. This room has it's really multi-purpose. This is where I work all day, and I do have a pretty stressful job and lots of crazy stuff going on all the time. So I really wanted it to be colorful and kind of bring me joy when I walked in. So it's very kind of bright and sunshiny, which is perfect for me, Tight space, we're making use of every single inch of the space, but when someone visits, we set up a queen size bed or air mattress fits right here. So That's what goes here. And then eventually we're hoping to have kind of a wall bed that'll tuck up and have some shelves on it when we're not using it, and then it can just fold down when we have guests. As soon as we moved in, I painted this room white, and then I painted the stripes. Brings me happiness for now to have just the different colors, and everything kind of ties together in this room.
I think the biggest thing that's unexpected about owning a home versus an apartment is that you have no fail-safe. With an apartment, if something breaks, you can call your landlord, or a lot of apartments have maintenance guys that'll come out and fix something. Here, this is yours. You have to be a grown-up now. And that was the biggest thing that we learned is like when our sink disintegrated, I couldn't just call a landlord and be like, come fix this. Like we had to like have a working sink. So I had to figure out how to fix it myself. But also, personally, I find that to be kind of fun. I like there being projects and things to work on in the house. We bought like a full-sized hammer.
Yeah.
I bought a saw, like a hand saw. I haven't used it yet, but like that's kind of fun. Like there's the responsibility is stressful and unexpected, but it's part of the joy of it as well. Our property taxes cost about 40% of what our mortgage is. So a huge part of what we're paying is just to live in this area, which has its benefits. Like we have free trash, the roads get plowed. We just got a bill that we didn't know was a thing for an annual sewer bill. It was a $350 bill that we had just got. I've never paid a sewer bill before. Our bills are a lot cheaper than they were in the city. So that does help kind of balance out. We're paying a lot less in utilities, but more for the actual place. This is our sunroom. For most of the year, kind of our music room, we have guitars and instruments, but right now a big chunk of it is our pre-garden area. This is the seed starting area. Every day I come in and make sure the lights are on at the right time. I give them 12 hours of light. My peppers just popped up. I planted these 3 weeks ago, so it's really exciting to watch as things like burst through the ground after just being a little seed for weeks. So we're back here in the backyard, and this is easily my favorite place in the entire property. Like this was my dream, to have a big backyard where I could grow my own food, have bonfires, have friends over. We're in the off season, but this is all food that's gonna be planted here. All kinds of greens and lettuces, herbs, berries are gonna go here. This is where it's all gonna happen. And the goal is within 5 years, I wanna grow 75% of all of our produce. I'm gonna have an entire wall of tomatoes in the back. I'm going to have a potato bed. I have asparagus and strawberries growing here. And then all along the ground, we're gonna have watermelons and squash and pumpkins. This is kind of the culmination of everything we've been working towards. And like, this was the dream, was for me to be able to have this space.
It turns out it is the perfect house for us at this point in our lives. And I don't know that it's our forever home, but it's definitely home for now.